am so excited for today, and I also just want to say that I feel like my outfit goes perfectly for today, and the fact that if you're going through this live, we are going into Valentine's Day. I have my little heart lollipop earrings. We're talking about love languages today, and I'm so excited. So I'm going to take you through the full assessment, just like we did yesterday with your North Star. And so what I want to do is really kind of map this out for you so that it's not going to be so much as quiz. It's going to be when you feel a trigger, you know that that's your love language. So there are 5 different types of love languages. If you've never heard of these, I am so excited for you to learn this, and you're going to learn so much, not only about yourself, but potentially your friends, coworkers, and your spouse. So this is going to show you that there is nothing wrong with you, that there could have been moments where you feel unloved and unseen, and it was just because you were not receiving love in the way that you like to receive love. There's nothing wrong with you. It's your love language. So here are the 5. Words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, and giving/receiving gifts. So there's 5 of them. Words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, giving/receiving gifts. So let's jump into this. So there's a lot of notes in the workbook. There's a ton that you can read on this that I wrote out, but let's do the assessment together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the entire grid that I created of this with all 5 love languages. And when you feel a trigger, you're going to know which love language we're talking about. I'm not making it secret spicy like we have done in the past, because I want you to know, okay, that's a trigger. So this is the love language that we're talking about. And you can have multiple love languages. What I'm going to do at the end of this is you're actually going to rank them in order of most to least important. So let's jump into this. So what I'm going to go through is I'm going to say the love language. I'm going to say the action that you value. I'm going to say how to communicate with you. And then I'm going to say things to avoid. If all else fails, if that thing to avoid triggers you, then you know that that's your love language. Cool? So let's start. Words of affirmation. Actions that you value are spoken words. Example, an unexpected card or a text. So in the workbook, what's really cool is there's a spot to check the box. If that's like, you're like, yes. So then you can kind of assess what your top ones are. So spoken words, words of affirmation. So that would be an action that you value. Communicating with you would be using encouraging words, compliment, affirm, appreciate, recognize, listen actively. So you really value that form of communication, like tell you that you're pretty and you are good to go. Things to avoid, criticism, not recognizing or voicing appreciation for efforts. If you just went like, oh, yes, then check that box. So words of affirmation, that was number 1. Number 2, acts of service. So the way that you value this action would be to help out. So if someone helps you out, either cooks a meal, helps you with chores or running errands, that means the world to you. Communicating with you would be like, what can I do to help? So expressing that you are there in any way. When someone does that for you, it means the world. On the flip side, things to avoid with you. If someone forgets something or there's a lack of follow through on a small or a big task, that's a trigger. So that's acts of service. Third, quality time. So actions that you value are special moments, date nights, trips, going for a walk. You love that. The way that you would communicate that, or the person would communicate it with you, is one-on-one time. So an uninterrupted amount of time and focus. So on the flip side, a thing to avoid would be distractions. So if the person is on their phone or they're not paying attention or there's too many people in the group, that could be a trigger. So that means that you value quality time. Physical touch. So hugs and kisses and all of the love, holding hands, sitting close, like love pats and touches. Like that just is like your thing. Body language, eye contact, nonverbal, doesn't have to be verbal, and just a lot of affection. On the flip side of this, for physical touch, neglect. So if there is long stints without any intimacy, that can be a thing. If the person is cold or like there's forced affection, then that can be a huge trigger. 5th and final, receiving of gifts. You value receiving a gift or if someone gives you a gift. So any meaningful gifts or gestures make you feel special. The way to communicate that is that it's private and thoughtful. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean a big grand gift. It can be something small, but it's really about the thoughtfulness and that you feel like a priority. On the flip side of this, things to avoid with someone that values receiving gifts, that there's no enthusiasm, and if they forget or are lacking enthusiasm on a special event. What hit home? Which one are you like, oh, that's me, that one doesn't matter? So I'll go through this with you guys. Actually, I'll go through it at the end because we're going to like flip this around, because what's really interesting is we just went through love languages received, like how you receive love, how you perceive love to be. So your spouse could be doing like all the cooking, takes out the garbage, and you're like, why don't you love me? Because they just like don't hold your hand. It's as simple as that, but it can completely transform your relationship. So to do this with your significant other can be so powerful, even with a friend or even like coworkers. Obviously, you can't really like hug and kiss your coworkers, but you get what I'm saying. So let's do the opposite of this and do love languages given, because the way that you receive love can be completely different in the way that you give love. So how do you show love? So either think of your best friend, a parental figure, like just someone, who do you love the most on this planet? It can be your kids, it can be your spouse, whatever, it can be your pet. This might be hard with a pet, but how do you give love? So love languages given. Number 1, words of affirmation. So we're going to do the same order, but I just want you to kind of go through this with a keen eye of like thinking, now we've forgotten and we've moved on to how we receive love. We're thinking about, how do you give love? Like if you really, really love someone, what do you do out of all these things? And what do you avoid? So words of affirmation. Do you have kind spoken words? Do you send them a card or a text of like all of the nice words? All the encouraging words is how you communicate, compliment, affirm, appreciate, recognize, and listen attentively. And do you avoid criticism? Words of affirmation. Second, acts of service. Do you offer to help out? Do you offer to cook a meal? Is your like way that you communicate with them, what can I do? How can I help? Do you really try to avoid forgetting and the lack of follow through? Like what do you value doing for that person? Quality time. Do you know that you can give love the most by sharing special moments, booking a date night, having that one-on-one uninterrupted time, and you completely avoid distractions? You put away the phone because you know that that's like not cool when you're giving love. 4, physical touch. Are you like, if you love someone, are you all about like the hugs and kisses? You're going to sit as close as possible to them with the love pats. You will have constant eye contact. You don't necessarily feel like you need to say a lot, but you show them with your affection, and you're just a very affectionate person, and you completely avoid neglect. 5th, is your love language to show someone that they're loved, to give them gifts, meaningful, big or small. You just want them to know that they're important and the thought that went into them. And you avoid like the lack of enthusiasm on any special occasions because you just want them to feel loved. So what hit home for you in terms of how you give love? So let's do this together. So the next page on this is just a full summary of how I receive love 1 through 5, how I give love 1 through 5. So, and there's a little reminder on the bottom of what each of them are, but let's rank them together. So I'll do it with you. So for me, I mean, I've gone through this so many times in my life. So here's one thing that I will always tell you. If you're that person that's like, oh, I know what that is, and you don't review it with yourself, you're giving yourself no room to grow and no room to change, because a lot of us evolve over time. We learn new things. We learn new things about ourselves. Hopefully over the past couple weeks, you've learned things about yourself. And I've now gone through this multiple times with myself and with Andre, and I actually know what his are. So I would also say to get your spouse to come in next to you and do this together, because that way, if your spouse isn't feeling loved and your way of giving love is completely opposite of what they value, then you're going to have some issues, because they're just going to feel unloved when you're actually thinking that you're giving them all the love in the world. So I think that my top love language, and you can follow along and do this with me, top love language, I would say that mine is definitely words of affirmation. Like Andre always says, he's like, just tell her that she's pretty and feed her a pizza. I always say like tacos. I don't like tacos. So give me a slice of pizza and tell me I'm pretty, and I will be the happiest gal in the world. But then Andre's joke is also that I am all 5. So I would say in order, words of affirmation, gifts, but it can be, this is what I always explain, it can be the smallest thing. It's the amount of thought that was put behind it. So in the same breath, it could be quality time, because if you put a huge amount of effort into planning a date for us, I am like the happiest little clam. I get it. Women, we are complex. I'm so sorry. Words of affirmation, gifts, quality time, physical touch, acts of service. Now, can I blow your mind? When Andre and I did this activity together, we read this together, and he said that his most valued way of giving and receiving love, sometimes it can be the same, by the way, your most valued way of giving and receiving love is sometimes different, sometimes the same, And sometimes if you don't know, it'll just be the same, but you can shift it. So I've shifted mine over the years because I now know. So his way that he most valued to give and receive was acts of service. Do you think that there was maybe a problem? It's like literally at the bottom. Like he could do everything, and he does. He does like everything. He's a saintly man. To me, it doesn't equate to love. It's like we are partners. We are, we're in this together. But to me, it doesn't mean like love. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just doesn't make me feel loved. So then in the same breath, I went through this with him, and I was giving him words of affirmations, probably gifts. Like I went in order of what mine were. He values acts of service most. Mine was at the bottom. So something as simple as making sure that the bed was made in the morning makes him feel the most loved. Blew my mind. So rank yours in order of 1 through 5, most important to least important, and then how you give love. They could be completely the same, but what might be good is before you write how I give love, maybe check with your partner first, and then we can shift that on how you'd like to give love. So acts of service, quality time, physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation. Cool. I really hope that you had a revolutionary day today. And tomorrow what we're going to do, which is something so special, that I decided to take these 5 love languages and create a kind of assessment for us that we could do all together that could create the ultimate self-care day, which we're just going to talk about self-love languages, and it's going to be amazing. And we're going to set up a little routine for you, and it's going to be amazing. Okay. I will see you guys then. I'm so excited. And I hope that you had like the best time today, because I really did. And I also hope that you learned something. And if you want to rewatch this with your significant other, your bestie, definitely do it because it could blow your mind. Cool. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, dudes.